get started. I know there's some others that are registered and they might come on. Just so you are aware, it is being recorded as well. If you do not want your face to be shown in a video, you can just stop the video as we go as well. Doing that. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen. So can everyone see that? I'm going to start a slideshow right from the start. I am going to go back and forth a bit between a PowerPoint and other different things tonight. So just bear with me if I get in there right. Sometimes it gets a bit tricky. So welcome. This webinar tonight is on how to take a business idea and turn it into a business in just 9 weeks. So welcome. It's great to have you on board. I think we've got about 25 or so people registered for tonight, which is really, it's a good number of people to have on board. And I know not every one of them is actually joining us. Some have just registered to get the recording of it later on. Just some housekeeping stuff. If you can, keep yourself on mute unless you want to ask a question or make a comment, then just unmute yourself and butt in. Please make full use of the chat box. So that is, so there is a chat facility. You'll see that down there, and you can either chat to one or more people there. You can either chat to me personally or you can chat to individuals. I'm going to skip over the next one. So this webinar is for you and not for me. So if there's anything that you want to ask questions about, I'm going to take you through as much as I can tonight. There is a lot to cover, but I also want to make sure you get the value of it. And we'll have this available tomorrow and things for you as well. So has anyone got any questions at this stage? Is everyone comfortable with using Zoom? Any questions about using Zoom? Any questions about tonight or anything? Just if we can get those out of the way to start with. Otherwise, we'll move forward. We've got a chat coming through. You just see that. All good. Excellent. Okay. So it'd be great if you could in the chat just, there's a couple of things I'd like to know is one, I know we've got people from Sydney, Brisbane, Melbourne, Cairns and Townsville and the Gold Coast tonight. So if you could just go into the chat and just say to everyone, this is where I'm from, just so that we get an idea. And it'd be good to know if you are someone who, so I think we've got a range of, like a number of you responded to the email, the registration email I sent out, which is really great. So I've got some idea of some of the businesses that are on. Some of you just have an idea and you're not sure what to do with it. Some of you have already started your business, or in the early stages of starting, like some have got to the point of they've just got their ABN and that's about it. Others are a bit further along the track. And some have been in business a while, and I think we've got one or two not-for-profit organisations as well on tonight as well, which is there are similar things for not-for-profit organisations, just we've got different governmental structures and things. So if you could just go into the chat box and just let me know, it'd be great just to let me know what city you're from and just where you're at so that we can get an idea who I'm talking to. And two, it'd be great if you could let me know if there's any specific questions. Like obviously you've registered for a reason for this webinar tonight. It'd be great to know if there's something specific that you would like me to cover, because I'd really like to make sure that your questions are answered as we go through tonight. So thank you to those that are coming through. I'm just going to stop sharing this so I can see some of the chats coming through. Yeah, so if you can put some stuff in the chat, that would be great. So thanks, Tony. So from the Gold Coast, getting affordable housing up and going. Question about how to do that. I know some of you are going to take a while to chat in, and welcome. Taking part-time business. Yep, that's good. Brisbane, just looking at starting a business. Yep. In Manly West, got a business idea. So that's really good. So that gives me an idea of where you're at. It lets others know as well. If you want to keep putting some stuff and things in the chat as we go, it gives me a good idea about where we are and people that are coming on board as well. Okay, I'm going to go back to sharing the screen and bringing up. We've got some more coming through. Let me cancel this. Tired but looking for what I can do. That's good, Heather. There's actually that's not an uncommon thing, Heather. There's a lot of people who are retired and looking for extra income as well. Okay, so let's go and share this PowerPoint. I'm going to go through those and move this around as well. I'm going to keep the chat screen open so I can see what's coming in as well. Okay, so we're going to just let me go back in this. Go back. Okay, so thank you for sharing those. So do you have a business idea? So a lot of times there's a lot of people coming up with there's a lot of serial entrepreneurs who are coming up with ideas all the time. And the question is trying to find out whether or not that idea is viable or not. So it's about, and I like this picture because it's a maze. You're taking your idea and then getting it into business. There's a lot of hoops and things that you need to go through for that to happen. So I'm going to start off by saying some of the top reasons that businesses fail. So one of those is poor strategic management. So they're not looking to the long term or the planning that's in place. The other one could be inadequate cash flow or high cash use. So one of the other things with that is we say they don't have enough capital to get up and going or to see you through. Some businesses just simply run out of cash, so they can't keep going, or they're using cash too fast. The idea in the first place was never going to work. Sometimes we've had ideas that, and I know this from some of the stuff that we've tried to do in our own business, that some things work and some things don't. One of the other things that I've noticed too is sometimes the idea is not for its time. And I've noticed that a number of entrepreneurs are very forward thinking. And I had this long discussion with someone about this today, that they see things that are going to be needed in the future, but now's not the time for that. So sometimes it's really just a timing issue. Like a prime example of this happened recently with a fidget spinner. Like that was developed 25 years ago, and she did everything she could to get it off the ground. But then when it came out of the patent registration, someone else picked it up and just ran with it and made millions of dollars for a very short period of time. The other issue that we see is lack of proper training, so that people think that they can just, and I see this quite a bit with professionals who do a specific job well where they are, and so they decide they want to go out into business on their own, but they don't realize all the other ins and outs that go along with it. So it's like another example. This would be, I had an accountant phone me once, and she said, Wes, I've resigned from my accounting firm, set up on my own, wasn't allowed to take any clients with me, got my webpage up, all this kind of stuff. So when did the clients start phoning? So it's, what do you do to get that going? And the other ones is business owners stop thinking that they don't need help. And that can be actually a key thing. We actually did a breakfast recently with a lady called Louise Brokeman, who talked about she's done a lot of research, 3,000 or 4,000 businesses where they've mapped out the different income levels right from 0 to 110 million, where people are going to hit snags if they don't ask for help at that level. So it's clear. So, and I think one of the things with that is too, that business owners tend to be very independent. They're very forward thinking. They're very motivated people. They get up and get going. So sometimes they feel it's a weakness to actually stop and help and ask for questions. So there's some of the reasons why businesses fail. So tonight, what we're going to do is to get you started. We're going to look at some key areas to focus on. We're going to talk about, so my plan for tonight is actually talk about some of the, we have a program called CoStars, which actually helps you get up and going in your business. But one of the main things they have is a one-page business plan. And I want to actually give you some good content about that tonight so that you can, have a look at that and at least take it away and get started working on your idea tonight. So either in the chat box, you can see I've got the link to downloading the one-page business plan, or if you go to costars.co, you can look at it there as well. So I think, let me just stop sharing for a minute, because I think someone's got a question coming through. Did I see something pop up with that? Hang on, I'm going back and forth here. Maureen, did you have a question that you wanted to ask? So that you put up your hand. If you want to unmute yourself or chat or put something in the chat box, let me know. I just want to make sure that you're okay. Okay, sounds like you're okay. Feel free to put something in the chat box if you're not sure. Okay, let me move this around. Okay, so why do a business plan? Well, there's the old adage, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So a business plan actually helps you to work through and to think about all the different areas that you need to cover in business. Like sometimes we say, like, the business is all about, you've got a product or service that you're offering to customers, but how do you get that product or service to people, and what's all the back office kind of things that happen? So this is where the one-page business plan comes in very helpful, to give you a very good overview of the kind of things that you need to have and to take into place as you do that. So this is taken from the course. I mentioned CoStars before. So CoStars is a 9-week cohort-based. So cohort means a group-based program that equips aspiring entrepreneurs with the insights, relationships, and tools needed to turn business ideas into action and turn a passion into a sustainable and thriving endeavor. So that's what it is, and I'll talk a bit more about that later on. But to get going, I want to talk about the business canvas so that you've got something that you can, for those that are working on their business idea, can get up and going. So the idea from the business model that we use comes from the business model canvas, and you can look at businessmodelgeneration.com. About 5 million people around the world have been using the canvas. We've taken it and slightly modified it, and I'm going to take you through the modified version of it tonight. I don't know, I'll actually just stop sharing the screen, and you can just see, I can't see myself. Okay, I actually have this as a A3 size. And I actually encourage you, when it was a big one, and I know most of you probably print it off as a A4 size. But one of the other things that we encourage you to do is to actually to use sticky notes when you're writing on it, so that you can, because one of the things that we've noticed over time is that your idea will grow and develop and change. And many times, and you'll hear me say quite a bit about the word called pivot, that pivoting is changing. And one of the things that we had in our last cohort of people doing the CoStars course is actually, we found out that as he started talking to customers and things like that, that he found out that what he was thinking about actually wasn't going to work. The type of products and materials that he was using wasn't going to work because of the he wanted to use recyclable plastic. And actually, if you want to work with those that have organic certified honey, in his case, you actually can't use recycled plastic, which is very interesting. So for the next little bit, what I'm going to do is take you through segment by segment of the the one-page canvas so that you get a good idea of the kind of things that are involved in doing that. So the first thing we need to look at is who is your customer, and you actually need to have in your mind, or like, and actually one of the things that we do as part of the CoStars courses, we actually have a picture of a person, and we get you to write on there who is the customer, who is the person that you're actually aiming at doing. So it's who they serve. So what do they look like? Demographics, social graphics. So for some of you know, like, are they male or are they female? Are they, what age group are they? Are they kids? Are they teenagers? Are they adults? And then also breaking it down, are they millennials? Are they baby boomers? So, and Generation X, Generation Y, all those different things. Do they have a specific income level? Are you aiming at people in the million plus bracket? Are you aiming at people who are in the maybe the $30,000 to $40,000 bracket? What's their unmet need? So why will they want your product and service? And you want to look at what are their fears, what are their frustrations, what are their wants and their aspirations. So what is it that who your customer is? And it's good to have like actually to break this down and to have a clear perspective, because it's going to help you when you're advertising to know where to target. So for example, if you're wanting to target single mums, you're not going to go to the local golf club to do that. Probably they're not going to be there. They may be, they may be down at mothers groups or things like that. You've got to think, and that's probably a bad example, but you need to look at where they are so you can target your marketing according to them. The other thing I'd say here is you actually may have a range of different customers depending on your product or service. Like you may, I think we've got a counselor online, so you may have a counseling service that breaks down to, so maybe for those who are going through grief, for example. So, and then in grief, you may have women who have lost their husbands, or husbands who have lost their wife, or it could be mums who have lost their children, or parents who have lost their children, or grandparents who have lost their children, or it may be grief in terms of people who have lost their job or lost a relationship or something along those lines. So you can see there that's actually very, so you may be doing grief counseling, but you've actually got very different targets in doing that as well. So you can break it down like that. So actually being able to get who is your customer clearly in your mind is very key. The other thing I'd say to that is, as you go out into the marketplace, you may find that your customer, there's other areas that you didn't think about. So an example of this is one of our other previous cohorts students was doing radiation-proof clothing. So there's a lot of mums that are concerned about the impact that mobile phones have on their unborn babies. So you can get a radiation-proof blanket to put around them, or when to put a shawl around you when you're breastfeeding, so that when you're using your phone, the radiation doesn't affect. And there's also Asian markets and things like that. But it was interesting because I was telling someone about it, and she was an airline hostess and trying to be a pilot. And she said, one of my biggest concerns is the radiation that comes from planes. And I'm working around planes all the time. Is there something that I can do for that? And then a couple of days later, I was talking to somebody else, and they said exactly the same thing. So have you thought about air stewards? Because they've got a high chance of exposure to radiation. Now I'm going to probably freak some of you guys out about flying. But actually, so I actually went back to the couple and said, hey, have you thought about this? And says, actually, what is coming up in our research all the time that we need to look at that specific area. So that's one of the other things that as you start to get out and do that. One of the things that we do as part of the CoStars courses, each week we actually ask you, you have to come back and report to me how many customers or potential customers that you've spoken to during the week. And I actually don't think I have that chart here with me tonight, but it's like going back to Sunday school or primary school. where we have your name and we track you. We give you a gold star for each customer you talk to. And there's a very good reason for that. It's because it's when you start talking to customers that you find out what they actually want and what they need. So I'll give you another example of this, which is from a conversation today. So one of the guys I know has developed what they call a chicken tractor. So it's a tractor that they so if you want to have organic chickens, I think it's a couple of hundred chickens I think fit into this tractor. But what they were finding was that it was in different areas of Australia, chickens lay more eggs where there's more sunlight and less eggs where there's less sunlight. So in the factory chickens, they actually keep the lights on for 22 hours, which means they get a higher laying capacity. But if you're just sticking out on the farm, what do you do? And so they came up. So people spoke to the customer, said to them, "We've got an issue. Our the chickens aren't laying as much." So the solution for it was actually to put lights in the chicken tractor and to put an automatic thing on them that the lights turn on an hour before sunrise, and doing that actually increased egg production. The other interesting thing is they're having a problem with all the chicken poo. If the chickens came back into the tractor by 5 p.m., before 5 p.m., they were finding that the buildup of poo in the tractor was too much. But they found that if they kept the chickens out for another hour, so they developed this thing to stop the chickens coming in again on a timing basis, and it solved that problem. So that was customer feedback. So there are lots of stories telling you guys tonight. Okay, so it's customer. So these are a whole lot of questions you can ask about customer. What does my customer do on a typical day, and in what order? Where do they work? What are their family situation? Where does my business fit into their customer's day? So like, for example, if you're a coffee shop, people, like, I don't know if you've ever been out on the road between 4 and 6 a.m. in the morning or 4 to 8 a.m. The number of customers coming through coffee shop drive-thrus now is just incredible. But do they do that on the way home? No, they don't tend to get it. So you need to be open in the morning doing that. When and how does the problem they have occur? How does my business provide a solution to them? And there's a whole lot of other questions there. So we take you through those questions and we actually help you to think through that and help you actually to go out and talk to people to find out what the answer is to those ones. Just some other things about customers. I'm going to talk a lot about customers tonight because without customers, you don't have a business. And without making sales, you don't have a business. Why do your customers leave? And, it's not what you think. 1% of them die, 3% of them move, 5% will buy from a friend. So you're not going to be able to compete with that. 9% is only on price. And that's the 14% is dissatisfied with your service, but 68% is perceived indifference. Your clients believe you don't care about them. So it's about how do you provide that care for them right from the start. And we talk about customer retention as a big thing, which is, customer. So the cost of retaining an existing customer is 10% against the cost of acquiring a new customer. So if you can keep your customers, it's going to save you big time. So we talk about that in the course as well. Some sales statistics as well, just to encourage you. That most people do not buy on the first contact. In fact, 48%, so I think it's, see down the bottom here, 2% of sales are made on the first contact, 3% on the second, 5% on the third, 10% on the fourth, but 80% of sales are made on the 5th to 12th contact. So this is one of the other things is you're going to get frustrated in business. Why am I constantly talking to them, following these people up and doing this? It's because people don't buy straight away in doing that, and you have that consistency. In fact, one of the things that we talk about is that for Facebook advertising, for example, most of the sales now are not made on the initial ad, but it's actually on you can actually now do a remarketing strategy. So this is probably going to freak some people out, but when you click from Facebook to someone's website, there's a thing called a Facebook pixel that actually keeps track of where you've been, and they can now track that if you, so like for example, I'll give you a prime example for this webinar tonight. So we had a certain number of people who clicked from our Facebook ads to our website, and we know that only about half of them actually then went on to register. So we can now, because we'll run this webinar again a couple of times, is that we can now remarket to those who have not actually registered for the webinar to follow them up and do that. It's some scary stuff. Like, people think from a privacy perspective it's scary, but it's actually a very good business tool. So the reality is that most 48% of salespeople never follow up on a prospect. 25% of salespeople make a second contact and stop. 12% of salespeople only make 3 contacts and stop, and 10% of salespeople make more than 3 contacts and then they go on. So there you go. So I've put this stuff in right from the start because we've got to start to get some of you are thinking and building your business that you're going to put the sales in the hands of somebody else. But CEO of the business is the chief salesperson of any business. So as the business owner, you are the chief salesperson. So you need to keep that in mind. Okay. So that's customers. I've spent a lot of time on that, doing that. So problem. This is interesting. Don't follow your heart, follow theirs. So what is their problem? So not what you think the problem is, but what their problem is. Because often, and this is where I'd encourage you to actually go into their shoes. What's the problem that they need to have solved, and not what you think the problem is? So what's the problem? What is the pain my customer has? What are the main challenges they're facing? And what do they want that they can't have, and why? And how do I know? So all this stuff is actually going to come from actually talking to them. Now, some of you are going to know from some of those things yourself, like some of the stuff that I've gone through in setting up a business. Like, I know some of the things that we struggle with in doing that, and we constantly need in doing that. So I can share from that, but also I've had to learn to actually sit down and talk to clients and say, okay, what is your problem? How can I help you? How can I work with you in doing that? Particularly some of the coaching stuff I do. So I'm always now sitting down and saying, okay, what is the issue that you're currently facing, and how do I work with it? So alternatives. So how is your customer currently solving the problem at the moment? Are existing alternatives too expensive or too difficult or inaccessible? Are current solutions doing the job as well as possible? And is my customer dissatisfied with the current solution enough to risk trying something new? So going back to this slide, you've got to, if it's not price, are they dissatisfied enough that they are going to actually make the change to come over to you? So you need to look at what are the alternatives, and do you have other alternatives? Like I spoke about grief counseling before. Alternative in doing, like if you've got a program to kids, it's going to be different to a program for, say, a woman who's in her 70s who's lost her husband. So how do you provide alternative to those things? And do you actually need to look at having different people who are gifted in those different areas for those? Solution. Are you solution focused? Your solution to this problem. So what is your solution, and how do you offer to that customer, and what does your customer get from what you're offering? So you need to actually think through that. So when someone comes to you, what is it that you're actually selling to them? And people actually, like, it's funny, like people want to know, just tell me what your product and service is, and I can make a decision to buy it or not. The other thing they're looking for is the benefit. So the benefit is why your solution matters to your customer. So typically the benefit is not a physical attribute, it's emotional and tangible. So, this is, while I hate it, but this is, the old car ads with the word scantily clad woman on there. Like they're saying, you know, if you get this card, then you're going to have all this, or like any, yeah, there's all sorts of different ad examples I could go into where they're not so much talking about the product itself. They're talking about what's the benefits from using the product or service that you have. So the benefit you'll provide to customers usually stem from giving them more of something. So it's either more love, more money, more acceptance, or more free time, or giving them less of something. So it's less stressful, reducing conflict, less hassle or uncertainty. So there's some key things to remember there. That there's really only those 4 things, and you can probably fit most things into that. The other thing is, what can you add to your customer's life to make it better, and what can I take away from them? How am I solving the problem, and what draws them to my product or service, and what motivates them to buy? I know these are a lot of questions and I'm going through them quickly, but I just wanted to give you an idea. These are the kinds of things when you're thinking about your product and what you're offering that you actually need to get clarified in your own mind too, because so that you can go forward when you're talking to people as well. And the last thing in this area is advantage. So your solution needs to have an advantage, something that sets you apart from your competition. So it's both what gives you the edge and why you are the right person to launch your business. What gives you edge over your competitors? What makes me unique from the alternatives? And why am I the right person to do this? Again, I keep raising the counseling example, so I'm sorry to be picking on that, but there's a lot of counselors out there. There's a lot of takeaway stores out there. There's a lot of service stations out there. But often the advantage is, and I want to talk to you specifically about this tonight, is the advantage of you being business is you. And don't underestimate the difference that you actually bring to the business. So many people feel like they get very coy with me about wanting to share their idea because they're afraid that like even in a group setting, like a webinar like this, like tonight, if I went around and asked everyone what their idea was, some people are a bit afraid that they would, someone else would come and steal it. But the reality is that no 2 people will grow a business the same way because you all have different personalities and there's different things that you will bring to the business that others won't bring. So you have an advantage to the business. And don't underestimate the advantage that you yourself bring because you've got certain training, got years of experience, certain knowledge, certain life skills. Certain relationship building skills that you can bring to the party as well. Okay, I want to just stop there for a quick, I might just stop sharing for a moment. How are we going? I'm giving you a lot of information. Is there any questions or things that you've got at this stage that you want to raise? Just give you a minute or so. Yeah, okay. So now it looks like everyone's doing okay. Good. Okay, let me go back. Enjoying it so far. Thank you, Liz. That's great. Okay, I'll go back to share the screen and take you through some more. So we're being through about half the canvas. So some of the other things that you need to think about is your messaging. So you may have the best product or service in the world, but unless people know about it, unless you tell people about it, how are they going to know about it? So your customers will engage you through your messaging. So your messaging is the main idea you want to communicate to the world about your business. So it should focus on why your customer wants your product or the service or the benefit for others. I'm just going to have a pull with my mouse here. Let me just bring up this chat box to make sure I've got the chats coming through here. Good. Okay. So thanks for that, Lawrence. So your message. So why would someone care? What about what's going to spark your product or service? What does my customer need to know, and what's most important? And what sets me apart from alternatives, and how will my message make my customer like and trust me? So there's a key thing about how you communicate your brand and how you get that messaging right to people. And the thing I'm going to say in this area is you're not always going to get your messaging right first go. It's going to grow and develop over time, and it will be an evolving thing in that sense. And the other thing with messaging is where do you get your messaging out? So people immediately think of social media these days. So either Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, or Pinterest, or the myriad of others that are Instagram. And so they may be the places for it, but they actually may not be the best place for you. Some businesses are better still going door to door, or actually setting up in a shopping center, or doing seminars, or doing free webinars, or there's a whole range of things that you can do to bring the business in. So where's the message? The other thing is distribution. So how are your customers physically going to get your product or service? So are you selling it directly to your customer, or are you selling it through a middleman? So like I'll give you a story about one of the other CoStars graduates. So they were developing pina coladas in bottles to sell in New Zealand, but they actually had designed the bottle. What they hadn't taken into account is they were going to ship them by DHL, and when they made the bottle, had the bottle designed, it actually didn't fit in DHL's package the right thing, so they actually couldn't fit. So if they had designed it right, they would have been able to fit 3 bottles into one of DHL's packaging. Instead, they're only able to put 1 in. So that caused all sorts of problems for them, and added their different costs and things in doing that. Talking about the chicken tractor before, they now flat pack their stuff and ship them around the world, but they're also changing the type of materials in them to actually decrease the cost of shipping as well. So we need to look at, are you going to go directly to your customer? We've got more ways of doing these days, setting up a website or Shopify or Facebook, all that kind of stuff. Or are you going to go through somebody else? Are you going to use another distributor to go through? So there's some key issues to work through. The next thing, and which is a key thing too, is revenue. How are you actually going to make money from your customer? So it's going to depend on the type of product that you like. Is it going to be a direct sale? So I think got someone making jewelry or something on tonight. So you make the jewelry, you go to a market, or you go to it, and they give you that. Is it going to be a subscription service or a usage fee? So like electricity or telephone is usage fee. Are you going to rent it or lease it? Brokerage, referral fees, licensing, advertising fees. So there's all sorts of ways that you can earn money. Some people provide their product or service for free and get other sponsorship or advertising to come in. So like newspapers is an example, though they don't provide the product for free, although the local rag is provided for free, but it's paid for by the advertising that comes into it, for example. Then we really get down to nitty-gritty about finances. And without getting your finances in order, you need to make, is this business going to be viable or not? So so we break it down into what are your startup costs and what are your ongoing costs. So what are your one-time startup needs? So there'll be either money, people, things, technology, or activities. So example of one-time startup costs may be actually the cost of getting the company set up, maybe the cost of renting a facility. It may be if you're developing a new product that, I've got a stapler here. If you're developing the stapler, it needs to be molded. So all the molds that need to be made for that, so that you can produce that product or service. So there's a lot there that needs to be done. The next one is your ongoing costs. So what needs are essential to keep you going? So it's funny today. We're out. We're actually having a week's holiday at the moment, but we wanted to do this because of some of the stuff we've got upcoming. And we're at uh, the national park, and there was a cafe there, and the cafe was up for sale for $50,000. And I said to the kids, "Oh, it's up for sale for $50,000." And then we started to run some numbers. Actually, is that a good buy or not a good buy? You know, they had the figures as there's about 6,000 customers a year come through. What would be the average sale per customer? What would be their costs and all that kind of stuff? So it's a big thing in doing that as well. So you've got to take into account, and we do teach you how to do all the finances in relation to that, so that you can find out very quickly whether or not your business are you going to be able to produce enough revenue to make the business viable. So to give you an idea, one of our last cohort is you're going to set up a bar, and we worked out his break-even point is selling 20 drinks an hour. So his question was, could we actually do 20 drinks an hour? Could we get the clientele up to that? And so that then becomes a marketing issue in doing that. Okay, so I've very briefly gone through all those details of what's there. So I want to encourage you. Have you got any questions or things so far about the business canvas, about all those different areas that we've gone through tonight to get an idea for them? All very quiet tonight. Okay. Well, I will move forward then. So let me tell you. So you can see tonight that there's a lot of different areas to go through and to walk through. So the solution that I want to provide you tonight and talk to you about is, and we mentioned the CoStars course tonight. So just going back to the CoStars, I'll go back right back to the beginning here. So the CoStars course is a 9-week. It's a course that goes for 3 hours a week. It's cohort based, which means there's a group of people, and we generally have about 12 to 15 in the room. And the benefit of that is that you not only get the wisdom from the facilitators in the room, but also the wisdom from the other people in the room. And you're all pretty much at the same stage. You're either taking the idea and getting up and going, or you've been in business for a little bit. So you're all kind of doing similar things, and it's there to help you going. So the insight's there. And the other thing too is that we've found with CoStars, because it's been going for about 5 years now, and the history shows that from those in that first cohort, there's still 80% of them are still in business 5 years later, which is kind of like reversing the trend. Doing that, normally only 20% of people are still in business 5 years later. And one of the key things to that is that we actually build a community around you. So you've got the community from the cohort. But one of the other things that we do each week is we bring in, from weeks 2 through to week 8, we bring in a different guest speaker every week that talks about that specific topic that we're on about tonight. So in essence, the 9 different areas that we've gone through tonight, we actually spend a week on each one of those areas, although some of them we combine together because we spend a lot more time on working on the finances and getting the finances right in doing that as well. So I'm going to take you out and just take you to screen sharing stopped. I'm going to share my screen again and take you to, I need to go to here. I have fun with screen sharing sometimes, and I need to take you, can I go to bring up? So I'm going to bring up, so if you go to startupsinaustralia.com.au, you'll see this is where we do the CoStars thing for Australia. So I'll just take you through some of the things, and you can look at this later on. So CoStars is aimed at people who have really got an idea, want to up and going, or you may also have an original business, not a regional business. You may already be in business and you want to issue a new product or service, or you may feel like you're missing some things as well. So what to expect? So CoStars is an action-driven collaborative process with a small and supportive group of like-minded people, led by a facilitator who's an experienced entrepreneur. You'll identify your assumptions about why and how your business will work, and then talk with customers in order to validate your ideas. So this approach enables you to rapidly uncover flaws in your concept and find viable models more quickly. And look, after us running because we only just launched this here in Australia in October last year, after running our first cohort, the number of times that people came in with one business idea, but as we got them talking to customers, it changed and grew and morphed. And we use that word pivoted till something that becomes very viable in doing that. So you'll leave the program with a deeper understanding of how to create a sustainable business, articulate your model, and repeat the process with your next great idea as well. So it's about building a community around you. So this is the kind of stuff that we cover during the 9 weeks. So we talk about knowing yourself, your assumptions, your working styles, your team building obstacles. We really have a look at you, because for the business to succeed, it really has to, the driver of it is you as the business owner. Then we talk about knowing your customer. So there's the kind of things we talked about before: the problem, the solution, the benefits, competition advantage, and who your customer is. Then getting the relationship right. So how are you building your marketing message and keeping it going and getting customers? Then building it to scale. So we look at starting small, your distribution, revenue, all those things. Then week 5, we start to change, and then we look at your business structure. So we actually look at, are you going to be a sole trader, a partnership, a company, a trust, or a not-for-profit organization? And we work through each one of those so that you get an idea of those as well. And we actually get accountants and lawyers to come in during this time. So then we spend 3 weeks really getting down to the nitty-gritty of your finances and really unpacking, discovering your bottom line, accounting for growth. So we're looking at what are your costs, what's your break-even point, what are your sales projections, where your cash flow is, and planning for the future, talking about raising capital and all that stuff as well. Some of you may need to raise capital, some of you won't. So yeah, doing that. So there is a cost to the program. So the cost to CoStars is $1,700, which, if we had a look at around the marketplace, it's actually one of the cheapest programs that's out there. And actually, I don't need to be apologetic to the cost, because I know you're going to get great value for money out of what we offer. And in fact, I think I worked it out recently, and I should have done this again. It's about $60 an hour you're paying, which is pretty good for training these days. So we do have some payment plan options. There's 10% discount if you pay up front. We've got some, you can see there, you can pay 50% up front or later. Or if you want to do the course and money is an option, talk to us and we can put in place a specific payment plan for you, as long as it's totally paid for within the 9 weeks of doing the course. Because we have licensing costs and things that we need to pay for and things as well. So I'm going to skip back to my PowerPoint to where I'm up to here. Okay, we have a number of courses that are up and planning. So some will start the week of the 22nd of January, some the week after. We've got courses planned for Sydney, Melbourne. We're looking at, I don't know whether we've got anyone on Cairns, Townsville tonight up there as well, and also on the Gold Coast. So we have a team of 16 different facilitators that we've trained. So yeah, depend. Like I run a number of courses, and others will run courses as well. So I'm going to take a break there and see, does anyone have any questions on that at this point in time? I'm going to stop sharing my screen and doing that. Someone, you got a question about Google Docs. Google, like we'll talk in there about using Google as a, like, for example, I use that all the time as a way of doing things and a way of collaborating together. And it is a good communication tool for doing that as well. So you've kind of got, just so you know, with you've also got the other option of using Microsoft's products as well. So there's two things there. But I think it's safe to say that Google's pretty widespread use. Will we consider doing prono? So what we can with pro bono stuff, we actually look at seeing if we can get someone to sponsor you to do the program. We have maybe one or two people can do that, but not a lot to do that. But we can certainly talk to you about those things as well. Any other questions there coming through? Okay. One of the key things that if you are interested in moving forward, and I know a number of you would be interested in doing that, the key starting place is to actually go to startupsinaustralia.com.au and then to start the application process, because we don't accept everyone actually, but we, to go through those kind of things. So Karen, you've asked the question, what's the ongoing post support? Well, there's a couple of things. One is you've got a community. So for each cohort we set up a Facebook group, and those Facebook groups tend to be very active, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on between that community, and we're also connecting you with other professionals and things as part of the course program. From there, one of the next steps for us to go on to doing is we can either go on and do some one-on-one training with you, and we actually have some access to some government-funded courses in relation to doing that as well. So we can kind of streamline you through. We actually then take you on to TAFE's Small Business Solutions and what they have to offer in there. And they've got a number of programs for that. So we can sit down and work a plan for you in doing that. So, and that's right. Like, if some of you, like, the course is an option, but some of you, it may be one-on-one coaching that you'll need, and we can quite prepared to sit down and have a chat with you about that. We can actually also offer you, through the Small Business Solutions, we can offer you one-on-one coaching through that and get some government funding help for you to do that. So that may be an option for you as well, Liz, in doing that. And I can send you some other details about that too. Okay. Okay. Maybe, Leanne, we need to have a one-on-one chat about those kind of things, and we can arrange to do that as well. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. It's fine. You're doing that. Okay. Any questions that you've got? Any other things that are coming up? I know different ones are in different places, so I'm going to aim to be in contact you with each one of you individually to touch base and see what we can do to help each one of you. It may be CoStars may not be the program for you. We may have a program through TAFE Small Business Solutions is another option, or it may be just sitting down and having a one-on-one chat with you as well. So there's various options available depending on where you're at and where you might be. I do say that because I teach the TAFE stuff as well as this, I find that this is a very practical course that is aimed at actually getting your business going, because we have such a huge customer focus, and because we get you, like, you have to report back every week how many customers you've spoken to. And I must say that this is not a course that you do if you want to be spoon-fed. this is a course that if you want to get a business up and going, because getting a business up and going is a lot of work that needs to happen with it, and we're not hand holding you through it, but we're guiding you and leading you through that, and we're there to help you and point you in the right direction. One of the other things I do need to say is that we have, I have a network of about 2,500 people that we can connect you in with as well. So if you're struggling with a particular issue and we're not sure how to see that get up and going, there's always people that we can talk to about that as well. And actually, which leads me to one of the other things, one of the other events that we have coming up is on the 3rd of February. One of the other things that we do is about 5 times a year, we put on different networking events. So on the 3rd of February, we have an event called Build Your Network Strong in 2018, which is a lady called Liz Kitchen, who's a networker, a guy called Bob Bodine, who's going to speak about how that we already know everybody we need to know to get our business up and going. And then Julia Mason is going to talk about building LinkedIn and things for that. So if you want to go to our website, businessblessings.com.au, there's some information about that there, and you're more than welcome to come and join us for that as well. Well, it's coming close to 9 o'clock. I did want to make sure we kept within the hour. It's 9 o'clock down here in New South Wales, although I normally live in Brisbane. It's only 8 o'clock up there. But any final comments or things before we sign off tonight? I will send you a link to this video once we upload it. And the recording of it, you can either listen to it, watch it again by video, or listen to it by that. But if there's anything else, otherwise we might leave it there. Thank you, guys. It's good. Yeah, there's lots to think about. We do, if you are interested in doing the CoStars course, I'll talk to you one-on-one about that, but we would like to see you enroll perhaps by the end of next week, because we have to order our next round of materials and things for us and to get you up and going. There's always the option too that you may want to do it later on in the year as well. But thank you, guys. I really appreciate you logging on. If you know any others who you think if you're talking to would benefit from this, then you'll have the links to share that with them as well and go for that. No worries. Okay. Well, I might go through and unmute everybody. If there's any...
Thanks, Wes. You're wonderful.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Wes. Great.
Thank you. So I trust that was very helpful. I feel like sometimes I'm just talking to the screen, but I know that you're there and I could see someone taking notes and things like that as well. So that's really in doing that. Excellent. Okay. Well, we'll leave it there. And I look forward to talking to you all individually as we go on the next couple of days. Okay.
Same.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much, Wes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.